Hey, good morning. Lieutenant Colonel Clint Hall, commanding officer, 2nd Battalion, 5th Marines, stationed out of Camp Pendleton, California, part of the 1st Marine Division, which is part of the 1st Marine Expeditionary Force.
So during this mountain training exercise, sir, what would you say was the greatest tactical challenge that you experienced during the exercise?
So and I'll come to this with some other additions on what Bridgeport, the values that it provides to any infantry unit is the focus and the increased requirement that small unit leaders, specifically squad leaders, platoon commanders, platoon sergeants, their duties just become hyper-focused due to the high elevation, the weather, and the compartmentalized terrain. So this is just a phenomenal opportunity up here to build those small unit leaders, build their confidence and their capabilities to ensure that they become more lethal. At the battalion level, one of the challenges fighting at altitude in compartmentalized terrain is the ability to spread out far enough that you can search and find the enemy, but doing so through rigorous terrain that increases the time, space, and logistics required to achieve those goals. And the compartmentalization will oftentimes separate one unit from another. So the ability for the units within that specific corridor to be self-sufficient and be able to support themselves with fires proves challenging. And the ability to get on a flank or behind the enemy requires speed, which we have a lot of gear. A lot of that gear is useful, but it also proves a challenge to be able to gain an advantage on the enemy.
Sir, how would you describe your experience integrating the French company with all these challenges in the exercise, both in the planning and in the execution?
Yeah, the integration of the chamois, the 27th Mountain Brigade, was seamless from the first planning conference in May, where I met some of their personnel, to our arrival here, which they were already here, and then a platoon going to each one of our lettered companies allowed the things that the U.S. Marines were good at, the French could pick up on, and then even, I'd say more importantly, because they have far more experience and reps in the mountains, what they provided for that 14 to 16 day mobility phase, depending on which company you were with. The U.S. Marines could pick up on some of those tactics, techniques, and procedures from those platoons in chamois. And then during the planning, it was it was a pleasure to work with Chamois 6 and their leadership in the planning as we gained a new appreciation for how much and what type of terrain they could move over and how quickly they could do so. And during the execution of the FEX, they absolutely proved that they could move through mountainous, rigorous, compartmentalized terrain day or night at a speed that, just to be frank, the U.S. Marines cannot move that fast. So they were vital in assisting us in gaining an advantage and getting the high ground, which allowed us then to continue through the exercise to our ultimate objective.
And then, sir, what is your overall assessment of working with chamois, the pros and cons, and in the end result, how would you assess that?
I'd say the only con is that we don't do this enough. So this is, in 26 years of service, this is the first time I've had the opportunity to work with the French. So I think it is imperative that we continue to take advantage of these opportunities, and not just with the French, with all of our allies, but especially our oldest allies from the United Kingdom, Australia, New Zealand, and certainly the French, that we take these opportunities as the most important part is it starts establishing relationships with counterparts in the other service. That is key. If you know someone in another service, you're already getting an advantage on any potential threats or adversaries that we may have to face in the future. Secondly, it will decrease the time it takes to get up on par to being warfighting capable, and it'll make us more lethal more quickly the more we can exercise these and work through those small nuances that can cause big problems. For example, how we plan, how we communicate, how we sustain, how we provide fires. If we can get more reps in those areas, it will serve us and our respective nations well. God forbid that call ever comes where we have to go to the sound of the gun side by side with our allies again.